I was so vigilant about the canon of Deadpool to make sure that we get every aspect of it right, that even the most kind of scrupulous fanboy or fangirl could sit down and go, that's Deadpool. That's the Deadpool I know, love, and need.
Ryan Reynolds, the actor who revitalized his career by bringing Deadpool to life, and who recently delivered one of Marvel's few post-Endgame successes with Deadpool and Wolverine earning over $1.3 billion worldwide, has reportedly quit the MCU entirely and signed a massive exclusive deal with Paramount Pictures. According to multiple sources with knowledge of the situation, Reynolds didn't just decline future Marvel projects. He allegedly told Disney executives in brutally blunt terms that they can kiss his ass after their insulting attempts to slash his compensation, while simultaneously demanding he compromise Deadpool's creative integrity for PG-13 Avengers appearances. This isn't an amicable parting of ways or a scheduling conflict. This is apparently Reynolds burning bridges with Marvel's parent company, while making a very public statement that Disney's treatment of talent has become so disrespectful that even actors who delivered massive hits are choosing to walk away rather than continue under current conditions. This is absolutely catastrophic for Disney and Marvel on every level imaginable. First, Reynolds and Deadpool represent one of Marvel's few genuinely successful recent properties, a character and actor combination that proved the MCU can still generate massive box office and cultural excitement when done right. Losing Reynolds means losing access to Deadpool just when Marvel desperately needs wins. Second, Reynolds defecting to Paramount specifically, rather than just becoming a free agent, represents a direct competitive threat, with one of Marvel's most valuable actors now actively working to build content for a studio that competes directly with Disney. Third, the reported kiss my ass sentiment and Reynolds' willingness to speak bluntly about Disney's disrespectful treatment validates every criticism about how the studio manages talent and suggests the problems are so severe that even their most successful recent collaborators won't tolerate them. Fourth, this continues an alarming exodus of major talent from Marvel that suggests systemic dysfunction that's destroying the franchise from within. Let's break down what allegedly happened to push Reynolds to this explosive breaking point, what his Paramount deal reportedly includes, why this matters so much coming from someone who just delivered Marvel's biggest recent success, and what this reveals about Disney's catastrophic mismanagement of the MCU. Ryan Reynolds spent over a decade fighting to make Deadpool happen, shepherding the character through development hell, advocating for the R-rated approach that studios resisted, and ultimately proving with two massively successful Deadpool films under Fox that the character could work if allowed to maintain his irreverent, fourth-wall-breaking, ultra-violent personality. When Disney acquired Fox and absorbed the X-Men properties including Deadpool, there were immediate concerns about whether Disney would allow Deadpool to remain R-rated or would water down the character for family-friendly MCU integration. Reynolds publicly advocated for maintaining Deadpool's edge and apparently received assurances from Marvel that the character would remain R-rated and creatively distinct. The success of Deadpool and Wolverine in 2024, which became one of the highest-grossing R-rated films of all time and one of Marvel's few post-Endgame unqualified successes, seemed to validate Reynolds' approach and prove that audiences wanted the character done right, rather than compromised for broader MCU compatibility. But according to sources familiar with the situation, the success of Deadpool and Wolverine apparently made Disney greedy rather than grateful. Instead of recognizing Reynolds as a creative partner who delivered exactly what Marvel needed and compensating him accordingly for future projects, Disney apparently saw an opportunity to extract more value from Deadpool while paying Reynolds less and exerting more creative control over the character. According to insiders, Disney approached Reynolds about future Deadpool projects and potential Avengers appearances with offers that were shockingly low considering Deadpool and Wolverine's massive success. Sources claim Disney offered Reynolds approximately $15 to $20 million for future MCU appearances, including potential Avengers films, with significantly reduced back-end participation compared to his Deadpool and Wolverine deal. For context, Reynolds reportedly made between $50 to $80 million from Deadpool and Wolverine when combining salary and back-end, meaning Disney was offering roughly a quarter of what he'd just earned despite his film being one of their biggest recent successes. Disney's apparent logic was that future Deadpool appearances would be in ensemble films where Reynolds wouldn't be the sole lead. and therefore he should accept reduced compensation compared to his solo Deadpool projects. According to sources, Disney executives apparently argued that the value of being in Avengers films and integrated into the broader MCU should factor into Reynolds' compensation calculations, suggesting he should accept lower pay in exchange for the prestige and exposure of MCU participation. This reasoning allegedly infuriated Reynolds for multiple reasons. First, he'd just proven that Deadpool could generate over $1.3 billion without needing the Avengers or broader MCU integration, so the argument that he needed Marvel more than Marvel needed him was demonstrably false. Second, reducing his compensation after delivering one of Marvel's few recent unqualified successes sent the message that success would be punished rather than rewarded. Third, the suggestion that exposure and prestige should substitute for fair compensation was insulting to someone who'd already proven his market value beyond any doubt. But according to sources, the financial insult was compounded by creative demands that Reynolds found unacceptable. Disney apparently wanted Reynolds to agree that future Deadpool appearances in PG-13 MCU films would require toning down the character's violence, language, and sexual humor to fit the rating. They proposed that Deadpool could maintain his R-rated edge in solo projects, but would need to be family-friendly when appearing alongside other MCU heroes. Reynolds reportedly rejected this creative compromise absolutely and immediately. According to people familiar with his thinking, Reynolds felt that Deadpool's entire appeal comes from his refusal to compromise, his willingness to go places other superheroes won't, and his meta-commentary on superhero conventions. Making him PG-13 for Avengers films would fundamentally break what makes the character work, and would represent the exact kind of corporate compromise that Reynolds had spent years fighting against. Reynolds allegedly told Disney representatives that he'd rather not have Deadpool in the MCU at all than have him appear in watered-down form that betrayed the character. He argued that audiences loved Deadpool specifically because he was different from other MCU heroes, and that forcing him to conform to MCU standards would destroy what made him valuable. According to sources who heard about or witnessed Reynolds' final confrontation with Disney executives, the breaking point came when Disney tried to pressure Reynolds by suggesting that refusing their terms might mean Deadpool wouldn't appear in future MCU projects at all, implying this would damage both the character's relevance and Reynolds' career prospects. Reynolds' reported response was explosive and profane. According to insiders, Reynolds told Disney executives something along the lines of, "You think I need you? I just made you over $1 billion with a movie you didn't want to make, that you resisted at every turn, that succeeded because I fought for it to be done right. Now you want to pay me a fraction of what I'm worth to compromise everything that made it work? Disney can kiss my ass. I'm done." Reynolds allegedly continued, "You've just proven that delivering massive success for Marvel means nothing. No matter how much money I make you, you'll still try to underpay me and control me. That's not a partnership, that's exploitation. I spent a decade fighting studios to make Deadpool happen. I'm not spending another decade fighting Disney to keep him from being destroyed." According to people familiar with the meeting, Reynolds was calm but absolutely certain in his decision to leave. He apparently told Disney that he'd already been approached by other studios, offering better financial terms and genuine creative partnership, and that he was taking those offers rather than continuing to work for a company that viewed his success as an opportunity to extract more value while giving less respect. When Disney executives apparently tried to negotiate or suggest they could improve their offer, Reynolds allegedly cut them off and said he was done negotiating with people who'd already shown they don't value what he brings. He reportedly walked out of the meeting and immediately instructed his representatives to finalize his deal with Paramount. According to industry insiders, Paramount Pictures approached Reynolds in late 2024, while he was still technically in discussions with Disney about his Marvel future. Paramount executives, sensing opportunity in Reynolds' growing frustration with Disney, presented an offer designed to give Reynolds everything Disney was denying him: massive compensation, complete creative freedom, and genuine partnership in developing projects rather than just hiring him to execute studio mandates. The Paramount deal is reportedly structured as a multi-year exclusive arrangement worth well over $200 million when combining upfront payments, back-end participation, and production funding. Reynolds will develop and star in multiple films for Paramount, with his production company Maximum Effort integrated into Paramount's development process rather than operating separately. More importantly than the money, according to sources, Paramount offered Reynolds creative autonomy that Disney refused to provide. Reynolds will have final cut on his Paramount films, approval over directors and key creative personnel, and control over tone and content without studio interference. This represents the exact opposite of Disney's approach of demanding creative control while expecting Reynolds to execute their vision. Paramount also reportedly structured the deal to allow Reynolds to maintain ownership of intellectual property he develops, something Disney typically refuses. This means Reynolds could create franchises or characters for Paramount while retaining significant equity and control over their future use, rather than surrendering everything to the studio. According to insiders, what sealed Reynolds' decision to sign with Paramount was the studio's approach to the partnership. Paramount executives apparently spent significant time with Reynolds discussing his creative vision, his frustrations with how studios typically operate, and his ideas for projects he wanted to make. They positioned themselves as facilitators of Reynolds' creativity rather than as controllers of it, promising to provide resources and support while trusting Reynolds' instincts given his proven track record of success. The contrast between Paramount's respectful, collaborative approach and Disney's controlling, compensation-cutting approach apparently made Reynolds' decision straightforward. Why work for a studio that treats you poorly when a competitor will treat you well while paying you more? Reynolds' exit from Marvel creates enormous problems for Disney's MCU planning. Deadpool and Wolverine proved that the character could be a major draw and that Reynolds' irreverent approach could reinvigorate superhero fatigue. Marvel desperately needs wins after a string of underperforming projects, and Deadpool represented one of their most valuable remaining assets. Without Reynolds, Marvel loses access to Deadpool for future films. They technically own the character and could theoretically recast, but replacing Reynolds as Deadpool would be catastrophic. Reynolds doesn't just play Deadpool, he is Deadpool in ways that make the performance inseparable from the character. Any attempt to recast would face massive fan backlash and would almost certainly fail commercially. This means one of Marvel's most valuable characters is essentially retired from the franchise, not because of creative decisions, but because Disney was too cheap and too controlling to retain the actor who made the character work. It's a completely self-inflicted wound that removes a major asset from Marvel's arsenal during a period when they desperately need every advantage. The loss also damages Marvel's credibility with audiences and talent. When word spreads that Disney drove away Deadpool himself after he delivered a $1.3 billion success, it sends a message that success doesn't protect you from Disney's cost-cutting and creative interference. Why would other talented actors commit to Marvel when even delivering massive hits results in disrespectful treatment? For Paramount, Reynolds' signing represents a major competitive victory and an opportunity to build franchises around proven talent who can deliver both critical and commercial success. Reynolds brings not just his acting, but his production capabilities, his marketing genius, through maximum effort, and his understanding of how to create content that resonates with modern audiences. Paramount can now develop multiple projects around Reynolds with confidence that his involvement significantly increases their probability of success. His track record with Deadpool, his marketing savvy, and his creative instincts make him one of the most valuable actors in Hollywood, and Paramount has secured exclusive access while Marvel self-destructed the relationship. The symbolic value is also significant. Paramount signing a major MCU star away from Disney demonstrates that Marvel is no longer the default destination for superhero talent, that competitors can offer better terms and better creative partnerships, and that Disney's dominance in the superhero space is vulnerable to studios willing to treat talent with respect. Reynolds' reported, "Disney can kiss my ass" exit is part of a broader and deeply troubling pattern of Disney driving away MCU talent through poor compensation, creative disrespect, and management decisions that prioritize short-term cost savings over long-term franchise health. Multiple original Avengers have left or distanced themselves from Marvel. Supporting actors have declined to return. And now even recent successes like Reynolds are walking away disgusted by how they're treated. The pattern reveals fundamental dysfunction in how Disney manages talent relationships. They seem to believe that the Marvel brand is valuable enough that actors should accept whatever terms Disney offers out of gratitude for the opportunity. But this calculation is proving catastrophically wrong. Talented actors have options, and when Disney treats them poorly, they exercise those options by leaving. The irony is that Disney's cost-cutting approach is costing them far more than they save. Whatever Disney saved by offering Reynolds $15 to $20 million, instead of the $40 to $50 million he apparently wanted, will be dwarfed by the value Reynolds could have brought to future Marvel projects and by the damage done to Marvel's ability to attract and retain talent. Reynolds leaving also demonstrates that no level of recent success protects you from Disney's penny pinching. If delivering a $1.3 billion film doesn't earn you respect and fair compensation, what does? The message to talent is clear. Disney will exploit your success to extract more value while offering less compensation and respect, regardless of how much you've contributed. The fan response to Reynolds' reported exit has been overwhelmingly supportive of the actor and critical of Disney. Social media exploded, with fans praising Reynolds for standing up for himself and for Deadpool, condemning Disney for trying to underpay and creatively compromise someone who just delivered one of their biggest recent successes, and expressing excitement about what Reynolds might create at Paramount free from Disney's constraints. Fans are noting the bitter irony that Disney finally allowed an R-rated Deadpool film to exist in the MCU. It became a massive success, and their response was to try cutting Reynolds' pay and forcing him to tone down the character for future appearances. This perfectly encapsulates Disney's dysfunction. Success breeds not gratitude or partnership, but attempts to extract more value while giving less. There's also significant anger at Disney for losing Deadpool through pure corporate arrogance and short-sighted penny pinching. Fans recognize that Reynolds walking away was completely preventable and resulted entirely from Disney's choices rather than from any unavoidable circumstances. The excitement about Reynolds' Paramount projects is genuine, with fans expressing hope that freed from Disney's creative interference and corporate mandates, Reynolds can create content that's as bold and innovative as Deadpool was before Disney tried to water it down. Ryan Reynolds' reported explosive exit from Marvel, after telling Disney they can kiss his ass, represents a franchise losing one of its most valuable assets through pure corporate incompetence and disrespect. Reynolds gave Disney exactly what they needed, a massive commercial and critical success that proved Marvel could still work when done right. Disney's response was to try paying him less and controlling him more, perfectly demonstrating the dysfunction that's destroying Marvel from within. Reynolds' decision to sign with Paramount, rather than just walking away from superhero content, entirely represents the ultimate competitive threat for Disney. Their talent isn't just leaving, it's going to build competing franchises for studios that treat creative people with the respect and compensation Disney refuses to provide. The kiss my ass sentiment will haunt Disney because it so perfectly captures the justified anger of talent who've delivered success only to be treated as disposable or exploitable. Reynolds built Deadpool into a billion-dollar franchise, proved he could deliver exactly what Marvel needed, and got insulted with lowball offers and creative compromise demands as thanks. His response, walking away while telling Disney where they can kiss, is the only response that makes sense. Disney lost Deadpool. They lost Ryan Reynolds. They lost another piece of what made Marvel successful. And they lost all of it through choices they made, through prioritizing cost-cutting over talent retention, through demanding creative control over partnership, through treating success as an opportunity to extract more rather than as a reason to invest more. Someone at Disney needs to recognize that destroying relationships with talent who deliver billion-dollar successes through cheap and disrespectful treatment is killing Marvel more effectively than any box office failure could. But based on the pattern of similar exits, that recognition hasn't arrived yet. Disney seems committed to learning this lesson the hard way, by driving away talent until Marvel's brand is so damaged that nobody wants to work with them anymore, even for the characters and franchises they theoretically control. Ryan Reynolds is done with Disney, Deadpool is done with Marvel. And Disney has nobody to blame but themselves for destroying something valuable because they were too arrogant and too cheap to recognize what they had until it walked out the door telling them exactly where they could kiss.